when I do my comments in the centre. London lies on the River Thames, one of the most famous rivers of England. The Thames source is actually in the west, southern part west, sort of near Bristol, Bath, and dwindles along from west towards the east. Quite a few famous places are on the River Thames, for example Oxford. And Oxford people call the River Thames, they have a nickname for it, and it's Isis. And then we have Windsor on the River Thames as well. Windsor is an old Anglo-Saxon name for Windle's Law, saying the winding shore. And famous Windsor Castle is in Windsor, of course, so one of the largest castle in the world, with over 9 square kilometers of castle grounds, and one of the residents of the British monarchy, King Charles III at the moment. And it's also the longest surfing castle in the world, so it's been in use uninterruptedly for over 900 years. English houses, some with their bay windows, sort of from about 100 years ago. Here on the right hand side, sort of the about 100 years old, those houses, and typical with the front gardens, and as I described, some converted. I mentioned here on the left hand side we've got a big stadium coming up. This is rugby. This is the National Rugby Stadium, Twickenham. So the national, international, and local rugby games taking place here. There's also sometimes quite a few local clubs. They have their training grounds here, so sometimes you may spot a local little green with the rugby field on it. But here on the left hand side, this is Twickenham, and rugby is quite an interesting sport, a very popular sport in England, and it's also very popular that families go to as supporters there. In the rugby teams, they always have a mascot. Oops. As well, that the people who stayed behind suddenly were without central government, and that meant that there was a power vacuum, and many indigenous tribes started to fight each other again for who has the power. And this is how the Arthur story came about. King Arthur, the Round Table. This came about from this time, sort of where, and this where is actually stopping the tides going more further up. So from here on, the River Thames is tidal, and the tide difference in height is between 6 and 7 meters. So it's quite a lot, and we are going to cross the River Thames in a few minutes again. It will be much wider, and we'll have a look if it's high tide or low tide at the moment. Yeah, so under the Anglo-Saxons, in the meantime, Londinium was sort of just left by the Romans, and the indigenous people went back to their default because they didn't have the knowledge. The Romans didn't pass on all their knowledge how to build houses and things like that. So it was sort of a little bit dark ages. Yeah. By the way, there's here on the left hand side the local rugby playground with the big tall poles. Yeah, they're the goals. Yeah. And so this, because just after the Romans left, between the Romans and the Anglo-Saxon rule, this is what we call Dark Ages, because not much happened there, not much in a development of civilization happened there. And the Anglo-Saxons then started to rebuilt the ruins of Londinium, and that was the charismatic King Alfred, the Anglo-Saxon King Alfred of Wessex, who was very well educated. He could read and write as the seafaring nation, because they learned from the Vikings how to build boats, how to build ships. And this was then the start of the ship-faring era of Great Britain. Thanks to King Alfred, as the financial center in Great Britain, in London, and then Great Britain as well, or in the world. And we will show you a little bit of the city today. And the city of London later, thanks to Magna Carta, 1215, Magna Carta was acknowledged by King John. Magna Carta is relevant also to the American history, because it's the foundation of the Constitution of America, of the United States. And this goes back to 1215. And there's one article of the 63 articles in Magna Carta say that the city of London is independent. The king has nothing to say in the city of London. And it came about because the merchants, today they are trading commodities and money on big computer screens. Back then in the Middle Ages they were trading goods physically with the London port, the biggest port. So now we cross the River Thames a second time. It's sort of halfway up, halfway down the water. There's always someone rowing, yeah, on the right hand side. You can see someone with their rowing clubs, and yeah. And then we've got another rugby playground with the kids training, yeah. Here on the left hand side, beer barrels piled up. The English beer is a little bit differently served as you may be used to, because it's almost a little room temperature. It's not very cold, and not as much gas in it. So it's just quite flat, and it has a very, very different taste as well. It's sort of a little bit more, what would you describe it? Malty, yeah, a little bit more malty, yeah. It's a anymore because of health and safety. But it stayed as typical double-decker buses. And 66, and that's when the Norman rule started. That was when like the numbering of the kings, William the First, William the Second, William the Third. This is all the system of the Norman rule, and since then, we keep it. It's Charles the Third now. Yeah. So that it's the home of the diplomats, the stars. It's the entrance to Holland Park. Here now on the left-hand side with this golden stuff on it. It's a very small park, but it sort of shows a little bit how affluent the area is. The former Russian oligarchs would have their residences here. There is one private street I'll point out to you. It even has a gate, and where you can't walk along. Usually we have in Britain we have right of way everywhere. So even if it's private land, there is mostly some sort of right of way to walk along. That you may not be able to drive along, but that you can walk along. So it is very, very unusual. Before the Russian-Ukrainian war, there were quite a few oligarchs who bought these houses. Then after that private road, it's all coming up on the left-hand side. There is a very, very short glimpse of Kensington Palace. It is obviously also not directly next to the road. It's sort of a little bit set back in the park. The park surrounding Kensington Palace is called Kensington Gardens. It used to be part of Hyde, and when Kensington Palace was created as a royal residence for Queen Mary and King William in the end of the 17th century, it was then it was private then, but made public later on. So Kensington Gardens today, you can walk and have a stroll in the park, or I used to go roller skating there for a few years ago. So it is open to the public. And the second part, it's just in the name. In case you have a keen eye and say, why is it called Kensington Gardens? It is because it used to be part of Kensington Palace. And then once we pass Kensington, a big monument, and this golden figure is Prince Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria. Prince Albert died with 42 years old only and Queen Victoria was very much in love. It was not only in an arranged marriage, they also loved each other truly. And to commemorate her husband, Queen Victoria had this fantastic monument built, and also celebrating the empire, British Empire. Yeah, now on the left-hand side with the silver car, yeah, this is the private road. You can see it's gated, and no one is coming up. And then where the Land Rover just drove in here on the left-hand side, yeah, just before the phone box here where the people walk. This is the entrance to Kensington Palace, and you can see Kensington Palace here a little bit set back on the left-hand side. Can you see it? Yep. Yeah? This was the home of Princess Diana. So now we've got all this area here of Kensington Gardens. As I said, home to open to the public now, and then built as an amphitheatre ground. So it's got a round center stage.
On my phone and then get video.
What do you want?
Sometimes being used as a stage, and sometimes
Is it going? Okay.
Being also used as for the audience, because there's also another one side where it can also be a stage there. And the Royal Albert Hall is most famous for the proms, which take place in summer, prominent concerts, classical concerts, and then in September you have the last night of the proms. It's one of the most famous concerts ever in the Royal Albert Hall every year, last night of the proms, when they say their flags, yeah. But it's also a concert hall for modern concerts. Adele performed here, Eric Clapton, Brian May, and just coming up. So
Look at this
to
tree.
see.
This is the monument she had built.
Yeah.
You can stop.
The monument that Queen Victoria had built for Prince Albert.
You should be able to. Yeah. Yeah. So we can have a short 10 minutes break. Yeah.
So that was the